more popular than the editors of Rolling Stone magazine. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. How was that opening, Mr. Taylor?
It was relevant.
Okay.
Because I guarantee you there's probably half of our 2 listeners right now have no idea what you're talking about, so it's pretty relevant.
So that's more than normal?
Yes.
Is what you're saying? Okay.
I just hope Brian, I know he said usually he gives it 3 minutes and then goes to bed. I hope he gave it 4 tonight.
Oh, that's nice of him. That's nice of him.
I don't blame him. Usually after 4 minutes, it means we have some kind of technical glitch that we can't go on.
I am one of your illustrious hosts, Keith Grieve.
And I'm Steve Taylor. Hi, folks.
In the building today, ladies and gentlemen, we are all spoiled in the same building. No wonders of the internet pulling us all together tonight.
It's the wonders of the air conditioning.
Yeah, that'll do. On a hot 95-degree night here in upstate New York.
You know, I live up here for the fall, not for 90-degree weather.
Okay.
And you know what? I'm tired of the whole heat index thing. If the heat index says it feels like it's 106 degrees, then it's 106 degrees.
It doesn't matter like what the actual temperature is.
No.
However it feels, that's the temperature.
Exactly. Same thing with wind chill. However cold it is with wind chill, that's how cold it is. So today it was like 106 degrees. Insane.
I'll give you that. I'll agree with you there.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Keith.
A reminder that this and every broadcast is brought to you by CG Imaging. That's cg-imaging.com. CG Imaging, virtually creating reality. The phone number, folks, again, 585-633-7487. That's 585-633-7487. Email us at youguysuck@87sportsfans.com. And also Twitter at 87sportsfans and sportsfans and Facebook.com.
Are you sure about that?
/87sportsfans. I got it now. I got it eventually. Okay. Don't criticize me. So,
It's what I do.
Steve-O.
Yes?
Had a big week in the world of baseball. The All-Star festivities, the All-Star break, and then Home Run Derby on Monday night, which I managed to stay conscious through thanks to a help of my old friend Samuel Adams after playing a softball doubleheader in 90-degree
Actually, it was
humidity.
his brother Yingling, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's his Asian cousin.
Asian cousin. Wow. Okay.
You can't tell me that name doesn't sound Asian.
No, absolutely. You know, that's the kind of racism we needed in this show, so it's perfect, Keith. Perfect.
I wanted to make one of those internet memes with like a picture of Sweet Brown because under the radar racism is so much better than that in your face racism.
Yeah.
Anywho, so the Home Run Derby, I haven't watched really that intently the last couple of years. But this year, you know, being stuck in front of a TV, I got to tell you, the show that Yannis Cespedes put on in the first round was something. But
way to go getting that name.
You like that?
That's great, man.
Well, I spent half the night on Monday calling him Cespedes, and then I actually saw the way that his name is actually spelled with the accent mark kind of E. Yeah. And I figured it out eventually. But what are your thoughts on the Home Run Derby?
I thought it was fun. You know, it was entertaining. I feel really bad for Bryce Harper's dad because a lot of people even commented the next day. His dad threw so many pitches because normally a player, when they want to get into the swing of things, will let maybe 1-2 pitches go by just to kind of get in the groove, get the feel for it. He was letting like 4 or 5 really good pitches go by each time he was swinging the bat. So his dad threw north of 100 pitches on a 90-degree night in New York City, and I felt so bad for his father. But it was fun. You know, it was really entertaining. I enjoyed it. You know, you had that great first round by Cespedes. How do you say it?
Cespedes.
He had a great first round where he hit 17 bombers, and other than that, though, no one really, you know, excited the crowd by going on a long streak. He was the only one in that first round. So that made it a little boring at times, but it was fun to watch. I enjoy it, and there was actually a scene, and I wouldn't even say it's a scene. I would say there was a clump of the segment where they had Mike Piazza sitting in with Chris Berman, and behind him there was this kid in Mets gear making insane faces to the camera and had me pissing my pants. And that, to me, was the entertaining part of the whole show.
Really? Out of the whole night, that's what you're going to take away as entertaining?
I'm sorry. It was funny.
Well, I'll give you
enjoy
that,
it.
but there was nothing more entertaining than that little kid that somebody needed to take out back and put in.
Okay, maybe when was it Harper that hit the truck on the home run? I don't know.
No, that was
I'm trying to remember who it was.
Kadire.
It might have been Kadire. When he hit the 400-foot home run that bounced off of the Chevy truck, that was pretty.
Which
fun.
I'll give him credit, because when I saw that he was in the home run derby, I was like, I just don't think Michael Kadire when I think home run derby.
Yeah.
Just the name doesn't just pop up. But
He did too bad. I mean, he did better than
he hit some bombs.
Cano, who won it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Well, with Cespedes hit 17 home runs and 10 outs in the first round. You figure that out, 27 swings. Normally that's 2 or 3 games worth of swings. In 90-degree heat, I give him credit for even standing up in the final round.
Yeah.
Much less still hitting 9 bombs.
and
To
line
win
drives too. A lot of his home runs had no air under them. They were just laser beams right to the outfield. And it was crazy.
If you had to pick an event to watch of all the 3 sports, because now they've all added skills challenges to their repertoire for their All-Star weekends or All-Star celebrations, which would you rather watch if you had to pick one to watch?
It would definitely be baseball, because the NFL has for the best league of any sports of the major 5. The NFL has by far the worst. The Pro Bowl is terrible. In fact, the commissioner even has kicked around the idea of potentially canceling it because it's a joke. Hockey I hate, so I don't even care about that. And the NBA used to be great with the dunk contest and the three-point contest, but they've kind of made it too goofy. I don't know. It doesn't have that same kind of fun, just feeling that it had in the 80s with the whole Dominique Wilkins and Michael Jordan and Spud Webb in the dunk contest, and then Bird and Ainge and Reggie Miller in the three-point contest. You just don't have those players in those positions to make it exciting anymore. And then the game is a joke. It's no defense played. It's just a pickup game where they score 140 points a team. But then like last night and this whole weekend, the home run derby is still great. I love the home run derby. No matter how many times I've seen it, I still enjoy it. I didn't get the chance to watch the old timer softball game they did after that.
The celebrity
but
one.
I've seen that before, and that's pretty fun. And then the All-Star game is great. Like I personally love the baseball All-Star game, and I'm one of the few people that I can appreciate the fact that it does stand for something. I know a lot of the purists don't like it because
I hate it.
but it's like it's happening in the middle of the season, and instead of doing the old, we'll switch year to year who gets the World Series, I thought this was an interesting compromise to make an All-Star game relevant, which I think that's the problem with most of the All-Star games is they're not relevant at all, and so the players don't really care, and they're not nearly as entertaining as like a regular game. But this one, it has some relevance, so even though they are having fun, a lot of these players are taking it serious. I mean, who would think Prince Fielder would try to leg out a triple when his team has a 3-run lead in the 9th? But he still did it because he was, he wanted to score. To me, that says a lot. I mean, that's somebody that's carrying a lot of weight who is trucking out.
No pun intended.
No, seriously.
I get what you're saying from that angle, but so the St. Louis Cardinals are 57-36 right now, so they're on pace to win between 95 and 100 games without doing the math in my head accurately. So let's say they win 100 games and they have the best record in the National League, and they go through and they win the Division Series and they win the Championship Series and they go to the World Series. If they have a chance of playing a team with a lesser record that now will have home field advantage because of a game played in July by a team comprised of one player from every team. So, I mean, I don't know. Somebody on the Astros, like Colin Cowherd said this the other day, somebody on the Astros, the worst team in baseball, could have an impact on home field advantage in the World Series. That just doesn't seem right.
No, but I mean, okay. If you're asking me, is the current setup as good as if they just went by record? then I agree with you. Because if I think that's the ultimate, is they should go by record. They should just say, whoever has the best record of the two teams in the World Series, that should be the home field. But it was an awful system before, going just rotating years. And now this is a better system, but I think the system you're talking about would be the ideal one. But right now, I'm looking at, is this better than what it was before? And I think it is better than what it was before. But I know what they were saying. A lot of the reason why they didn't do the, the team with the best record gets world or home field advantage was because there was no interleague play, and they were just saying, well, maybe the teams in the West or in the National League are just better than the teams in the American League, and so it's not fair to say home field advantage or whatnot. But now that they are doing interleague play and teams from the different leagues are playing each other, I think they should go to a system where they do by record.
Well, what's really changed? I mean, everybody on the team gets in the game. You know what I mean? You're not holding off subbing players in because of a strategic advantage, because you need to win. You're still pretty much, for the most part, managing like it's an exhibition game. Prince Fielder maybe doesn't try to go for third. I'll give you that much. But I don't remember, maybe it's because I wasn't really looking back in the day. I don't remember ever watching a baseball all-star game and thinking that, these guys are just loafing and just mailing it in. I think that baseball is one of those sports where it's very hard to loaf without it being painfully obvious to the spectator.
True.
Football, painfully obvious that nobody is really trying. And you know what I mean? Basketball, at least there's the effort on the offensive end.
Yeah.
But there is no defense.
Not at all.
The slam dunk competition has gone the way of the dodo. You could probably cancel that, and no one will really miss that as much. The 3-point contest is still one of the best events. I think the 3-point contest is still the second best event to Home Run Derby of all the skills challenges.
Yes,
personally. But the All-Star game having an impact on the playoffs, I think, is just absolutely atrocious. I think that is the one thing, and I have in the past been a huge critic of Bud Selig, but when you take the whole picture and what he's done for the game, and which started, his reign, for lack of a better term, started with the '94 strike and the first ever canceled World Series. So he had a big hole to dig him out of as far as legacy goes.
And then that rolled right into the steroid era.
Right. But, they could only do as much as they could collectively bargain for. So, they instituted the testing in the minor leagues as soon as they possibly could. So he gets too much of baseball gets too much of a black eye for quote unquote turning a blind eye. I think they did as much as they possibly could. But what he's done to the All-Star game by trying to make it relevant, there's got to be another way to get that same effect without having it impact something like the World Series. I mean, how many teams? I mean, baseball has one of the better parodies as far as number of teams that have won a World Series in the last 15 years compared with everybody. They don't get nearly enough credit because everybody just thinks it's the Yankees every year. And that's just the perception. But there's got to be another way. So getting into the actual game last night, do you think it was a big deal that Matt Harvey hit Robinson Cano?
I don't think it is, especially because Harvey had come out and said that he absolutely did not mean to, and it was an accident. I mean, those guys are covered in sweat. They're hot as all hell, and you could tell that he did not intentionally throw that ball at Cano. It got away from him. It hit Cano. Cano's going to be fine. He's got a bruise. They said he'll still probably play Friday. I really don't think. And I've actually, after doing some research on Harvey today, after I saw a great video that I posted online from the what's his name?
That Tonight Show, is it Jay Leno?
No, it's not Jay Leno. It was the guy after him. Jimmy Fallon,
yeah.
Where they had sent Harvey out to interview Mets fans about Harvey.
I saw a piece of that.
That was genius, and he was hysterical. And after doing some research on him, he just seems like he's an actual nice guy and not the kind of person that would intentionally, especially in an All-Star game.
Well, there was somebody on my personal Facebook page that commented, "You don't throw that far inside in an All-Star game." I'm like, it's baseball. I mean, the guy's geeked up. I mean, I give credit to Mike Trout for just taking the first pitch and lacing it into right field because he knew that it was going to be a fastball because the kid would be ramped up. You know what I mean? It was a nice piece of hitting. But you're really a rookie. He came up last year, in the middle of last year, but you're really a rookie. You're starting your first All-Star game in your home stadium. Yeah. And Tom Seaver throws out the first pitch. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's all that pomp and circumstance. You're going to be a little, geeked up, and your control's going to suffer. And yeah, he's only hit one other player all year, and it was a dead-on fastball. So if you don't really understand what it takes to perform under those circumstances, you would think it was intentional. But like you said, the game does mean something. So you can't use that nobody pitches that far inside in an All-Star game rhetoric because you are trying to pitch to win.
And a lot of those players, regardless if they think their team is going to make it to the World Series or not, they still want to win for their for their either National League or American League. They want to win for their league. And so they take pride in the fact that the American League wins or takes pride in the fact National League wins. So like you said, if someone's crowding the plate, and it's instinct. It's pure instinct. He's going to, throw him a little inside to get him to back off a little bit, and it kind of got away from him. I don't blame him at all. It's like you said, it's baseball.
Buck up.
He didn't hit him in the head. If you hit him in the head, that's a different story. Hit him in the thigh.
Yeah.
Hit him in the thigh.
It was the knee.
Well,
it was the knee. God forbid. God forbid. It was because it was a Yankee. Really. I mean, let's be honest here. Let's just be honest. If he goes out and he hits Joe Schmo from the Mariners that made the team, no one's really getting all that fired up. It's because it was Robbie Cano.
But Harvey knows better that another thing to prove that I don't believe he did it intentionally is being a Met. If he took Cano out, there's nowhere he could go in New York City where he wouldn't have to watch his back every 2 seconds.
Only Queens. He'd only have Queens.
You would think so.
That was it. He'd only have Queens in the Flushing area there. That's all he would have.
Yeah.
All right. So, speaking of the Yankees, A-Rod. So now, apparently, everyone's all happy-dandy with him now that his rehab is progressing and he's gotten bumped up to AAA, and now there's even reports of him being with the Major League club on Monday for the game against the Rangers. But there was a little report that he just skipped a rehab game. He just decided to not show up. I don't get this guy. I mean, I know he doesn't need anybody. He doesn't need any of this. He's really just trying to come back to prove to everybody that he can hit clean. Because the supposed, and again, none of us really know, but the supposed mountain of evidence that they have with him in this whole biogenesis thing will probably cost him an entire season, which at his age might be the end of his career. At this point, are the Yankees better off cutting ties and going on without A-Rod? Because he's going to be a distraction one way or another.
Honestly, for the rest of this year, I don't know if I'd necessarily say better off. I mean, in the long run, yes, they're definitely better off without him. But they're going to owe him so much money. Even if they just cut him loose, they're going to owe him money. That it's going to be like, I think they realize with their injuries they have this year, and the start of the second half of their season is insane. I mean, they have Boston, they have Texas, they have the Rays, they have the Orioles, they have the Dodgers. I mean, they're playing a number of great teams where, right now they're 4 games over 500. After they get done with the next 4 series, they could actually be a lot lower. You know what I mean? They could be out of the entire race 3 weeks into the second half of the season.
They're actually 7 games over 500. Just for the record. Let's be accurate here.
I'm sorry. But they could be out of this race after these next series. They have so many injuries. This season is pretty much, I know they've done amazing, but it seems like the way they ended this first half, teams started to catch on to what they were doing right. And then the Yankees went on some serious skids where they weren't doing anything right. And I think A-Rod coming back isn't going to do any damage now for the rest of this season, but he's definitely gone for next season. I mean, they said they're going to start handing out the suspensions in the offseason, and I agree with you. I think A-Rod is going to get a suspension, he's going to lose a year, and he's going to be gone. He's just going to retire. The man's made enough money, and like I agree with you. I think it's an ego trip where he wants to try to come back and prove that he can make this miraculous comeback at his age and he can still play. But then after he puts in this time, I think he's going to be gone. Good riddance.
Good riddance.
They never needed him.
Really? Never?
They never needed him.
Never?
Never.
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 Never. Really? Never?
Never. The Yankees did not need A-Rod.
I want a 250-word essay.
I will. You think about all the players that when the Yankees got him, his skills were already starting to decline because of the whole steroid thing and him coming off of them because he knows they caught him. His skills were already diminishing. I mean, he had a couple really good seasons where he was hitting 40-plus home runs. But, in the postseason, he choked every year. And, the year they won the World Series with him, he did decent in the postseason, but he still didn't do great. And there could have been two players. I mean, you can go back to when he was picked up by the Yankees, and you could probably find two players that were also eligible to be picked up that they could have got for the same price they got for A-Rod, that would have done just as good and would have filled the role and the runs and the RBIs that he produced for the Yankees and done just as well, that wouldn't have had the baggage along with them. It's just he was that name, same as what they've done for years, is getting these big names that don't pan out. And, they're lucky he got that one World Series, because if he didn't get that, this could be considered the biggest bust in Yankee history. And to me, I go back to let Cameron Diaz feed you.
I need to go back and research that year that they won the World Series, because I remember him having a couple big hits, I think, during that series. But I really need a couple
big hits.
But you said they never needed him.
But like I said, you could put somebody else in there, they would get that big hit. Right. A-Rod had a couple big hits in many postseasons that he had no hits.
There you have it, straight from the horse's mouth, folks. Yes. Steve Taylor.
Mouth. Stick with mouth.
Yes. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Bud Selig's legacy. Where does he sit in the pantheon of sports commissioners? You're listening to 87 live on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
turn and no one's there. This doesn't make any sense at all. Any sense at all. This doesn't make any sense at all. Can you tell me when I die? I thought I was alive. Just a moment ago I tried. This doesn't make any sense at all. Any sense at all. This doesn't make any sense. So fool me, tell me I'm alive. Take me to the other side. Feel me, help me find the light. Take me to the other side. I just can't find the door to take me away from here. My routine I can't ignore. You will see me more and more. This doesn't make any sense at all. Any sense at all. This doesn't make any sense. So fool me, tell me I'm alive. Take me to the other side. I'll be lost somewhere in time. Take me to the other side. The end unknown, when's it gonna find you? The end unknown, where's it gonna take you? The end unknown. The end unknown, where's it gonna find you? The end unknown, where's it gonna take you? The end unknown. The end unknown.
You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
Still here.
Keith Grieve and Steve Taylor taking you through the second segment. You made it through the first half hour, folks. Thanks for joining us. Email us. You guys suck at 87sportsfans.com. The phone number, if you want to join the discussion, 585-633-7487. 585-633-7487. Coming up tonight, we have Jim Sarantias at the Fantasy Greek on Twitter joining us for our weekly NFL talk. We'll have Monty.
Oh, Monty.
The Sportologist. Follow him on Twitter at The Sportologist, joining us to talk a little NBA hoops. Right after Jim, actually. But for right now, I want to talk to you guys about CG Imaging. And I know you might hear us talk about it and you wonder just what is that company all about? Well, what they do is they bring your dreams to reality, and they do it through 3D realistic animation. Say you have an idea you're trying to pitch to your boss and your words and your drawings just aren't doing it, go to CG Imaging. Maybe you're trying to sell a product to a client and you're trying to show them what your product will look like in their space. CG Imaging can do that for you. Maybe you're a business just starting out. You need a logo design. They designed our logo. They also designed a header for our website. So go to their website, cg-imaging.com. CG Imaging, virtually creating reality.
You.
And now we get into a little bit of a touchy subject. And in my mind, in retrospect, as I get older in my years and a little bit wiser, I have come to appreciate the man that is the commissioner of baseball, Bud Selig.
Alan Huber.
Yes.
Bud Selig.
Bud. I think that really the beginning of my early angst toward the man was based on the fact that he went by Bud. And I kept thinking of Rudy's little friend from The Cosby Show.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I forgot his name was Bud.
I can't take a commissioner of baseball serious.
I always thought about the son from Married with Children.
Oh, yeah, Bud Bundy.
Bud Bundy.
Absolutely.
Because that was around the same time, 98, then when Selig took over, that show was still on, I believe. Might have been off the air.
No, I think it was in his sunset years,
Yeah,
if you know
I
what
think
I mean. After jumping the shark.
Yeah.
But overall, I don't think that you can really understate what good Bud Selig has done for the game. I mean, like we said before the break, his tenure started with that horrific 94 baseball strike and all the labor stress and a shortened 95 season and the canceling of the 94 World Series. But since then, there has been nothing in baseball. Every other sport has had some kind of labor disturbance. But ironically, baseball, who, as of 1994, had the ugliest episode. As we sit here today in 2013, they actually have had the best track record of labor peace. So he's expanded the playoffs, not once, but now twice.
Playoffs.
And while everybody last year was questioning what that extra wild card round would do, I mean, yeah, it was short and sweet, but I don't think you can deny it added just more drama. So in the end, I think that Bud Selig has done more for the game than any commissioner of baseball leading up to it. He saw it through the low attendance of the post-strike years, brought it to new heights. We saw the resurgence of the old-style ballparks come in. Those cookie-cutter ballparks like Three Rivers and Riverfront Stadium. Most of the AstroTurf stadiums are gone. Mm. I mean, the only albatross, ironically, is with the newest team in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
The Tropicana, the Trop sucks. There's no way around it. But he's leaving baseball dimensions ahead of where it was when he succeeded Fay Vincent as the commissioner of baseball. So,
well, he's brought it into the new era. New generation. I mean, he's had to update it and upgrade it. I mean, he did that with instant replay, which is going to expand more. There's been talks as far as home runs and fouls and whatnot. To me, I think his biggest leap was interleague play, because a lot of folks who are the purists, the crotchety old purists, were like, well, I don't like that. They shouldn't have to play each other unless they play in the World Series. Well, you know what? As a baseball fan, it's good to see some of the teams from the National League play some of the teams from the American League that usually never played each other because either they never made it to the World Series at the same time, or they just were bad enough that they never made it to the World Series, period. I think those weeks of interleague play actually are some of my favorite times to watch baseball, because you do get to see teams that never play each other, and that's fun. But even though they have been able to live without a work stoppage, they still have the biggest controversy potentially in professional sports history happened during his tenure, and that's the whole steroid era. Because, you can say what you want about what he's implemented now to help prevent it, but during the resurgence after the strike with McGuire and Sosa and their home run run, and all of those monster home run hitters that brought baseball back from the dead, I mean, you cannot tell me that he did not know what was going on. These guys were insane monsters, and he looked the other way to help. I'm just saying, there's no way. It's like Vince McMahon during the World Wrestling Federation heyday saying, I didn't know my guys were on steroids. I'm not saying that it was necessarily a bad thing, because it did help bring baseball back, and it brought excitement back into the game. But seeing what it caused with the huge fallout and, congressional hearings, and every time this word steroid is mentioned, you don't hear any other sport. It's just baseball and steroids and performance and drugs and blah, blah, blah. It has taken a game that used to be pure, and, people did look the other way when it came to things like amphetamine use, which has been going on for decades, and, doctoring the ball and pine tar in the bat. And for the most part, you look the other way. Now, the league has this huge black eye on them that I don't know if it'll ever go away. Like, it's a stigma that everyone thought was going to go away, 6 years ago. But it just continues, and every year, it just continues and continues, and now we're stuck in this whole biogenesis scandal. And, you don't hear anything about any other athlete connected to them. It's only baseball players. I think it would be stupid to think that there isn't other athletes from other sports that are connected to this guy and to this lab, but you don't ever hear about them. You just hear about baseball. Which to me, I think Bud Selig did a lot of good, but I think this is a black eye that'll never go away.
Are you done?
I'm done.
I was very patient.
I know you were.
Because I have a bad habit of interrupting.
I know.
You.
I appreciate that, because I would have forgot what I was saying.
I have an atrocious habit.
Atrocious.
Of interrupting you.
Yes,
I realize I do. It's a
That's
conscious
okay.
thing. I'm in a group. It's called Atrocious Anonymous, but everyone just keeps talking about drinking. I don't understand why.
We've been heterosexual life partners for so long that it's just
I
commonplace.
really don't feel comfortable with that phrase. I really don't. Anyway, no, the heterosexual life partner thing. I don't. No, I can't. I can't even. I can't bend my brain around that. I just know
It's too
just
late
not
in the
gonna
day.
happen. I think it's really unfair to say that Bud Selig looked the other way. I think there's a difference between knowing what's going on and having the power to do something about it. And obviously, like all the other sports, baseball is unionized, and there's only so much that you can do from a punishment standpoint. Anything that we see now with these 50-game suspensions is because of, in the next collective bargaining agreement, Bud Selig and his crew brought it to the table, and even the players got to a point where they realized that the ones that are there, staying clean, busting their tail, and are doing it on talent and hard work, they want their name clear, and they want to make sure that they're clear. But there's always going to be evolutions in the drug industry, which are going to keep baseball pretty much chasing its tail. You look at Ryan Braun. You look at what we've learned from this biogenesis thing. They're not, giving out the anabolic steroids that you watch the Saturday afternoon special about in the 1980s. You know what I mean? It's not that. It's these synthetic drugs. I'll use synthetic. I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm using synthetic as to kind of describe the next generation of drugs. Like, maybe I'm right for using that word. Maybe I'm wrong. But it's a constant evolution where, they can test for this, but they'll find something else that they can't test for, and it's just going to be a constant circle. So until you start banning players for life, okay? I mean, Pete Rose is banned for life. I'm sure players bet on sports, but you have a really hard time finding out about it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? If you start banning, if they have hard evidence on A-Rod after the last Bolé situation he had 5-6 years ago, or however long ago it was, they should ban A-Rod.
Absolutely.
For life.
For life.
No Hall of Fame, no mention of anything. Pretend like he did not exist in the game.
I agree.
And that is the only way you will ever have a chance. And I don't even think it's going to be that effective. Because you look at how other sports like track and field, you get a 2-year ban. And it doesn't stop people from doping.
No, not at all.
At all. So as long as they think that there's a chance that they've got something that they'll get away with, it's going to be happening. I don't think it's fair to criticize Bud Selig for the late 90s, early 2000s, because there's only so much he could do.
True, but it's like the captain going down with the ship. If someone does something and you're in command of them on like a military ship or whatnot, you're responsible because you're in charge. He's the commissioner of the league. This big thing happened, it's always going to be thrown on him. It's just the way it is. It's always because, like you said, there's only so much he could do, but I still don't think he did enough. He could have done something else. You could have
based on what I'm.
The first time you see he looked at Mark McGwire, and when he went to the Cardinals, he was a freak of nature. That's not natural.
What you can't do anything that the players' union does not agree to allow you to do. So in that CBA,
but this is what you do, though. He could have.
I'm pushing you here because
I know you are. Because he could have instigated, or he could have pushed for new testing, and made it public.
He did. He did the only thing that he could do at the time, and that was instituted in the minor leagues. He did the only thing that he could do at the time.
But what I'm saying is he could have mentioned it. He could have, like, as soon as you bring the media into it and say, you know, in the beginning of all this, before anything came out, if he would have brought the media and said, listen, there's been rumors that there's been doping going on with some of the players in the league, and we're going to get on top of this. And I'm working with, like, he could have had one meeting with the players union and said, I'm working with the players union, and we need to instigate. As soon as the media hears that there might be doping, they were going to, you know, push for that stuff to happen to where, and now mind you, I think if you put Bud Selig against Fear, right? Donald Fear, was he the?
Fear, yeah.
Yeah.
F-E-H-R, Fear.
He is the biggest piece of garbage in the history of sports. Next to Don King. I put those two right next to one another. And if you're putting Selig against him, then I think Bud Selig is a god. Because I agree with you. Fear and the players union allowed the steroids to happen. They pretty much were sticking the needles in the players' butts because they wanted this to happen without any repercussions. I just think that there could have been something. I know it was going to be hard. They should have thought of something, though, because this was able to blow up to the proportions to where you had players like McGwire and Sosa and Bonds attacking these cherished records. Once that happened, there was no going back. Like, as soon as they were hitting these records and breaking, like, the Maris and the Roots and beating these, like, the home run records and the batting titles and the MVPs, and as soon as that started happening, there was no going back. You dug your own grave. If he could have somehow stopped it before any of those records were broken, or at least brought it to the public's attention before that, because no one even heard of steroids or thought about it until after McGwire had already broken Maris's record. No one, I don't think anyone wanted to, because they were having so much fun watching him at home. I was one of them. That year that he broke the record, he went to the home run derby and was hitting them out of the park every other ball. It was amazing. But I just, like I said, I think it's going to be a stigma attached to him just because he was the commissioner. And there's no way to get around it. And same as right now with Goodell in the NFL, no matter how much of a disciplinarian he touted himself to be, he has players now getting arrested left and right and one on trial for potential murder for 3 different people. So that kind of thing is going to stick with him because people are going to say, why didn't you do more? I know you said you were going to be a disciplinarian, but you have players, since the Super Bowl, there's been more than 30 arrests.
He's made his bed by opening his mouth about integrity of the shield.
Yes.
Goodell was well-intentioned, obviously.
Absolutely he was.
But somebody who's advising him needs to be fired because by opening your mouth and saying that that's going to be your mission,
yeah,
then all of a sudden you have to deal with this.
Absolutely.
There's no saying, well, we can't really worry about what players do when they're not under our employ or not under our building. Now you have to do something.
Exactly.
And you're going to get to the point where there's players that are you're stepping over the line because you're using their behavior as an example of something that could reflect poorly on your business, but at the same time, they're not at work, and it's a whole gray area.
Yeah.
But he.
But once again, it's the same as Selig. He's going to have this shadow hanging over their tenure that people are never when they mention these commissioners in the future, like when you mention Bud Selig, you're going to have steroid next to his name, and you just are. No matter what he does, he could walk on water tomorrow. 20 years from now, when they're talking about commissioners of baseball and they say Bud Selig, they're going to say steroid era, and that's just. Unfortunately, there's nothing he's going to be able to do about that. It's just going to be stuck with him.
And it is unfortunate because I've come to the point where I believe that he has done everything that he possibly could do. So I think when I think about baseball commissioners, Peter Uberoff, going back in the 80s, baseball had a cocaine problem. He didn't seem to care much.
They didn't have a problem. Doc Gooden was doing all of it. Oh, no, Darryl Strawberry got some.
And Steve Howe.
And Steve, oh, my God, how did he?
Let's not forget Steve Howe.
Yeah, I can forget that.
Where it became almost a joke as Steve, how is this guy still in the league?
Yeah.
But, it's... You look at Bart Giamatti and his unfortunate passing early. And Giamatti... was it Vincent or Giamatti that dealt with Pete Rose at first?
I think it was Giamatti, I want to say.
I don't remember. I guess I won't talk if I don't know. I don't remember. But then baseball had that whole cloud because he was a manager at the time. Did he bet on baseball? Did he not bet on baseball? They're really believing testimony of prostitutes and all kinds of people of ill repute.
Ill repute.
And then he came out and admitted it, and so they were kind of vindicated there. But I think in the end, history will be kind to Bud Selig, and be very interesting to see whoever is named as his successor. Yeah,
Giamatti was he banned Rose in '89. Was one of his last things. It was Faye Vincent who didn't reinstate him after he reinstated Steinbrenner, who had been given a lifelong ban.
The two biggest things Giamatti did in his life was ban Pete Rose and give us Paul Giamatti. So, on that note, we'll take
no effing Merlot.
Yeah, exactly. Don't go to the dark side. Such a great movie. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll have Jim Sarantius, the fantasy Greek.
Yeah, Jim.
We're going to talk a little quick NFL news and notes, and then break down the AFC East. If you're getting that fantasy football itch, you do not want to miss the beginning of what we call our football analysis.
Yeah.
You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
Michigan. They're hanging on. In Michigan. They're hanging on. In Michigan.
Oh no.
You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. It's top of the hour, 11 o'clock. It's our favorite segment of the week. Jim Sarantias, better known to you folks as the Fantasy Greek from thefantasygreek.com. Follow him on Twitter at thefantasygreek. Here to talk a little NFL news and notes, but we will begin, since it's July, it's now officially the middle of July, training camp's right around the corner, we will begin breaking down division by division your fantasy football outlooks. We will start tonight with the AFC East. Jim, how you doing?
Keith and Steve, I'm doing pretty well, and thanks for bringing me in on that song. That seemed to be like, huge crescendo, everybody should be clapping sort of song, and I like that.
We wanted to make it dramatic. That's what we like.
If you rub your eyes really hard, it looks like there's a bunch of cigarette lighters out in front of you. So, just so you know. So before we get into the AFC East and getting into all the nitty gritty for fantasy, actually, honestly, Steve needs it more than I do. But
Wow. Hey, at least I'm consistently mediocre every year.
some quick NFL news and notes, and one development that happened after I sent you the rundown for today. But I did send you a direct message on Twitter about it. Did you get that?
Probably, but I haven't seen it.
Okay. All right, so then we'll stick to the rundown. DeMarcus Ware, defensive end for the Cowboys, saying that no worries about his it was actually a shoulder injury. We were just talking about the break, and I thought it was a knee, but I'm just remembering it was a shoulder surgery. Saying that he'll be 100% for training camp and expects to be out there running around like crazy. Now, they obviously have a new defensive coordinator, new defensive line coach, new scheme on defense. He is, upwards in what we call old men age in football. He's 30 years old. So do you think it'd be wise for the Cowboys to ease him in, or do you think he's got to be out there banging on day one?
I don't think he has to be out there banging on day one. If he is truly prepared to, and he feels 100% ready to go, I mean, God bless him. Get out there and go do your thing. But he's 30 years old. He's a veteran in the league. I know they're switching defenses. I'm sure he could be eased back in. There is so much time. I know games are going to be starting up soon, but in terms of the start of the season, we're still just under 2 months away.
No, I totally understand. But if I'm Dallas and he's such a key part to that team, based on the personnel that they have, that roster that they have put together, I'm not sure if I want to take a chance. And if he's a little slow coming around week 1 or 2, I guess I'm okay with that. But a shoulder at the defensive end, if that gets banged up, strained, put out of place, you're looking at a long season.
Yeah, I agree with you, Keith. I at the end of the day, if you're the owner, you're the coaches. I mean, you look at one of your best players, you say, you know what? I know you're telling me this, but why don't you take it easy and I'll watch you, and if things seem right, I'll let you go.
The other side of that is that I know I'm over 30 myself, so I know that bodies don't respond like they normally do. So
you're preaching to the choir, but continue.
Yeah, it's like, dude, just relax. You're okay, dude. Just trust me.
You're in that donate your body to science fiction part of your life.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up before we hit into the AFC East, and I when this incident first happened, I purposely did not want to talk about it on this show because I thought it was a non-issue. and that is Colin Kaepernick wearing the Dolphins hat. The amount of hubbub that was made when it first happened, I thought was completely ridiculous, completely overblown. And it seemed to just kind of be in the media and fans making a big deal, really much ado about nothing. But today there was a report that I think adds a little bit of a different wrinkle, and his teammate now, Navarro Bowman, has spoke up saying that was a huge mistake on Kaepernick's part. And so obviously a player like Bowman, it could be that he's just speaking on his own, but what if he's speaking for a larger contingent of that team? First of all, do you think it's a big deal? And secondly, what could we possibly be looking for in that 49er locker room?
Well, as a normal person, I don't think it's a big deal, but I think that Navarro Bowman, by the mere fact that he decided to say something about it, is actually taking it very seriously, and to him it is a big deal. And I kind of understand. I mean, look, he's a 49er. He's not a Dolphin. He shouldn't be wearing, their logo, anything related to the team. He's a leader of the 49ers, and I think that's what he means. And, I get it. I don't think that there'll be any ramifications beyond what Navarro Bowman has stated in the press. But, it's just one of those things. I think they just wanted to immediately nip it in the bud and move on. And I'm sure he'll get some questions from some reporter. There's nothing better to ask about the hat. But, at the end of the day, I'm here to analyze football. And these hat stories, between mini camps and training camps, sort of, it's filler.
Yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And this is how you know everybody's itching to get back at football. If this is the biggest thing they come up with.
It just seems now that, at least for this year, the postseason or the off season for football, people, like you said, they want to keep football, in everyone's mind, and they had the draft at first, and now they have all of these controversies that some are big with the whole Hernandez thing, and some are small with the whole Kaepernick thing, but it is keeping the NFL on SportsCenter, on the news. It's keeping it relevant until the season starts. And then I guarantee you no one's going to care what kind of hat he's wearing after the 49ers win their first game.
Usually.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say absolutely. And, I was going to say even today, bigger news would have been Trent Richardson saying that he's a full go for training camp. I mean, I thought that was really just an important thing to know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How about Connor Barth blowing out his or tearing his Achilles in the Bucs signing Lawrence Tynes? Yeah. That's a pretty big deal.
How about how Connor Barth blew out his knee playing a charity basketball game? It's like,
is that what it was? You see, I heard it was a basketball game. I didn't know if it was just players, hanging out. If it was, not team related, but at a team facility, or if it was sort of on the side. I mean, it's just terrible.
Well, what I read was that it was a charity basketball game. So obviously the kicker thinks he's a real athlete. And that's the first.
I mean, the only thing more embarrassing would be blowing out your knee, celebrating a field goal. Oh, did I pull a Grammatica?
Yeah, you did.
There you go. There you go.
I kicked the ball. Oh, it hurts. Oh, it hurts.
Now I will, and I'll pose the question today, and in our next show, I'll give you the answer.
Okay.
A year ago, if you looked up the record book, the top 25 scorers in the NFL of active players at that time, and you exclude quarterbacks, 22 of the top 25 were kickers. If you can name the three that were not kickers at the next show, I'll be impressed.
Well, okay. Yeah, I'm going to Google it.
Oh, don't do that. Try and sit down and just figure it out.
You can't expect me to spend the next 7 days not looking that up on the computer.
Keith does have his iPhone surgically attached to his hand.
All right, then fine. Then I'll expect the answer, and if I don't get it, I'm going to seriously question your research abilities.
So last season you're talking about? The top
Yeah,
three.
1 year ago, there were 3 active players at the time. One of them retired. The other 2 are still technically active.
That were the just for that.
That
just
are
for
non-kickers.
Just for last season.
Top active scorers.
Oh, so career.
Yeah.
Career
Active,
totals.
Though.
I thought it was surprising when you looked at the top 25 and 22 of them were kickers, because everybody always says, who cares about the kicker? It's the kicker. It's a very important position when you actually sort of start adding up the numbers.
Nobody cares about the kickers until he starts missing, and then all of a sudden it's the most important position on the team.
Or if the kicker's Kathy Ireland.
Wait, I'm trying to.
That's a necessary roughness. I had to throw it out there. I did.
It's Robert.
I will say this: you could tell that it's a slow time of the year because of the jibber jabber that we're going through.
Yeah, right. We're talking about Robert Loggia movies.
Loggia.
Yeah.
Wait, Snowy. I want to try to answer this question now. So the three top scorers, non-kickers, non-quarterbacks, as of the end of last year.
No, before the season started.
Oh, before last season started.
Right. Because one of these players retired.
Retired after last season or before last season?
Before last season. And at the time, he was active, so he's still qualified to be in the top 25 of active scorers all time.
God, you're making
I'll even tell you the positions. One's a running back, the other two are wide receivers.
See, you're making him do too much math. I see smoke coming out of his ears.
No, it's not coming to me, and I don't want any dead air. So let's get on to the AFC East. I promise you, I'll make my Scout's honor promise that I will not Google it, and I will do my best, but I make no promise. Okay. So in the AFC East, now we'll talk about the beginning of the fantasy prognostications.
Wow,
God.
He's been waiting all show to use that. You have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot to do the whole when Jim got on again.
You were too excited.
Anyway, I was. Okay, so the AFC East, from a fantasy perspective, who are the must-haves on these teams in the AFC East from a fantasy perspective?
Oh, wow. That's how we're going to do it. Okay.
Well, that's what I sent you in the rundown. I tried.
Well, I didn't read it that way.
Either, so.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at it right now. Team by team must-haves.
All right. Well, let's start off with the Patriots. I mean, when you say must-haves, are we just talking about guys who are starters?
Yes.
Guys you should try to... Okay. Well, obviously, Tom Brady.
Right.
I mean, I know everyone's boo-hooing him because, there's new sets of receivers. Aaron Hernandez is no longer there. Rob Gronkowski may not be playing as of week 1. But at the end of the day, this is a guy who's been a top 5 quarterback 11 out of the past 13 seasons. And I think that after 3-4 quarterbacks have come off the board, if he's still there, he's probably the guy to get. The resume speaks for itself. Given the fact that they're going to be sort of reworking, given the fact he's going to have new weapons, obviously Danny Amendola is a guy that should, by going from the Rams to the Patriots, just flourish in this offense. He's pretty much going to be taking the place of Wes Welker, and anybody who knows Wes Welker knows that here's a guy who could get 90 to 100 receptions, 1,300 to 1,500 yards receiving, and certainly anywhere from 5, let's say, to 8 touchdowns. And that's a guy that you definitely want as a WR2 on your team, and from time to time he should excel. Rob Gronkowski, if the guy is healthy, and, I have him ranked as the number 1 tight end with the caveat that that ranking could change as we get closer to the season. If this guy's healthy, if he's going to play, I think it's difficult if somebody takes Jimmy Graham and Gronkowski's next, it's your time to get a tight end. I mean, I think it's hard to say no. I mean, he's a guy that has been putting up, I think it's 15 to 17 TDs the past 2 seasons per season. Mm-hmm. I think it's impossible to say no. And then 2 more people I like. First of all, follow Jake Ballard, because he's a guy that's sort of a sleeper on this team. I have him ranked very highly because somebody's got to step up and catch the ball. He should be able to put up some solid tight end numbers. But you got to like Stephen Ridley insofar as, hey, the Patriots, if they're going to have problems with throwing the ball, they're going to have to run it. So he makes for a solid RB2. And lastly, I really like the Patriots defense. When Aqib Talib was active, every game he was active, that defense just flourished. They already have a stout run defense, and with him, that pass defense is even better. So that's who I like on the Patriots.
Now, on the Patriots, I thought was a curious addition by them, only because 2 years ago on Tampa Bay, he was a pretty decent fantasy back. and that's LeGarrette Blount. Is there any whispers or talk out there about him ascending the depth chart during training camp?
I don't know that there is any talk, one way or another. But what I will say is that, I just don't expect it. If he couldn't flourish with the Buccaneers, I don't expect him flourishing with the Patriots. I think he's strictly a body. He's strictly depth. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they had to cut somebody that they cut him.
And let's not forget that as of right now, Leon Washington is still on the Patriots. So.
I like Leon Washington. And in fact, he's probably going to be more of a special teams guy, which actually makes the Patriots' defense and special teams so much more valuable in fantasy football. I haven't today. I posted our top 10 defenses part 1, where I went through the top 5, and while I haven't officially ranked the Patriots yet, I'm thinking they're going to fall into that next 5.
Wow.
It's just too compelling to look at a team like this with. Even if they don't have the high-powered offense they had last year, it's still going to be a decent offense. It's still going to be a good offense. And coupled with this defense, look, they play the Bills and the Jets 2 times each this year. There should be some good things happening for the Patriots.
It seemed like their defense for the last, five or so seasons has really been kind of a no-name defense. And then over the course of the last 2 years, last 2 drafts, they really put together a formidable unit, and you can't.
Yeah, they have, and very quietly.
Yeah, they're not really a whole lot of hubbub. I think Aqib Talib is really the biggest name next to Vince Wilfork on that. Brandon Spikes is as good a middle linebacker as there is in the league.
Here's a good stat for you. From weeks 11 through 16, those were 6 games that Aqib Talib was in the lineup. The Patriots held 4 of their opponents to 19 points or less for wins. In the other 2 games, the Patriots gave up only 24 points in a win over the Colts, and then they did give up 41 points in a loss to the 49ers, but still, that's pretty impressive.
Who knew Talib Island existed?
There you go.
All right. Now, is there anybody on this Patriots team that you look at that might seem flashy, but you really just want to stay away from?
Julian Edelman's a guy whose name has come up a couple times, and I do have him as a sleeper, and I think he's worthwhile, I suppose, as a late round pick. But it's one of these things where you don't have to jump up and down and say you got to have him. His name comes up often enough that it seems like people are really sort of starting to glom onto him, and I think you just have to be cautious of that.
Is he a handcuff for Amendola because he's been a little injury prone?
I don't handcuff receivers like that. They're going to generally wide receivers will live and die on their own merits. They're not like a running back where somebody could easily just step up in the same offense and do well. The receivers got to run the routes that they're taught, and some receivers run them well and some don't. So that's sort of why I wouldn't recommend handcuffing wide receivers like that. But somebody else that I have as sort of a super sleeper is Aaron Dobson. He's when I saw him at the Senior Bowl practices, besides reminding me of a young Randy Moss just physically, he just looked like he's got a lanky body. I think he knows what it is that he needs to do, and he just needs to practice it. He's a guy that I wouldn't draft him unless you carry 20 people on your roster and you have so many receivers you can afford to just blow a pick on him. He's a guy that as the season progresses, we might be surprised.
That's a name that I've heard a lot lately on Twitter anyway. People talking very highly of him. So I guess it just remains to be seen what happens in training camp.
Yeah, the thing that people have to be careful of right now is hearing people talk up players, and they're talking them up, but in the context of, hey, don't get crazy here.
Right.
Don't waste a draft pick on him. Just watch him. Right. Somebody was talking to me about Jason Witten and Gavin Escobar for the Cowboys, how they could suddenly become the next Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. And my thought was, Well, that's possible, but there's been absolutely no talk and no indication that the Cowboys' offense is heading in that direction, and therefore I wouldn't give that any credit whatsoever at this point until something with a little more meat in it comes out of Cowboys training camp.
All right, then moving on to the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, they had the big coaching change in the offseason. Kevin Cobb comes over. They draft E.J. Manuel. Is there anybody on this team that's a must-have from in fantasy?
Yeah, well, obviously C.J. Spiller. I mean, that guy just was amazing last year. I think he had, 1,700 all-purpose yards, probably 7 touchdowns, somewhere in that vicinity. He's a guy that, people should be drafting towards the end of round 1 or the beginning of round 2 is a low RB1, high RB2, just depending on how you view, some of the different running backs. The offense is likely going to run through the running backs, him and Fred Jackson, just like it did before. I know we've got Stevie Johnson, but we haven't seen what kind of chemistry he has with Kevin Cobb, who right now is expected to be the Week 1 starter. They've got a whole new set of young receivers, Robert Woods, Marquise Goodwin, as well as a couple of veterans that are going to be coming up, that younger veterans that, they're going to be battling, like TJ Graham, they're going to be battling for second and third spots. So outside of CJ Spiller, it's probably a good idea. And Stevie Johnson, he's worth definitely a wide receiver 3 pick. Outside of those two, I would sort of stay away from people. I'm not even sure that Kevin Cobb, and in fact, I don't think Kevin Cobb is going to be the starter for the entire season. I think at some point E.J. Manuel is going to get his shot, and he actually may very much surprise a lot of us. Mm-hmm. Maybe not me, but you guys.
Yeah. Hey, like I said, it was just where they drafted him. That's all. And the AFC East, the Miami Dolphins. This is a team, some of the players, Ryan Tannehill intrigues me, especially because our league, like I've said before, is a dynasty league. So somebody to maybe stash for a year or two. Is there anybody on this team that you're looking at?
There's some things about the Dolphins I'd like to see play out a little bit. I like Ryan Tannehill. I like him for now as sort of a mid to low QB2. He had decent enough rookie stats, and he probably could have started him from time to time in the right matchup. But overall, he wasn't a guy that, he didn't light the world on fire like RG3 or Andrew Luck or Russell Wilson did. Now, they've done a really nice job surrounding him with just a ton of weapons. And in the end, it may likely be better for him than it will be for, let's say, Mike Wallace. And what I mean by that is by bringing in all these weapons, suddenly he'll have different options. Teams will have to account for people like Brian Hartline, Brandon Gibson, Dustin Keller, plus the running backs on this team, which is another story, that, he should get more opportunities to improve upon his stats, but, he's not poised to be a top 12 fantasy football quarterback. I think he's draftable, but just as a QB too. And one guy to be very cautious of, not because he won't be able to do something this season, but to be cautious because we just don't know exactly what we're going to get, is going to be Mike Wallace. And, if he was with Ben Roethlisberger, you could sit there and look at him and go, you know what, 1,200 yards and 7-8 TDs, that sounds like something you can do. With Ryan Tannehill, it's a little bit more unclear. He had a few good games with Brian Hartline and Devone Best last year, but it was just a few games. And he was inconsistent at times with his wide receivers. So, I think Mike Wallace, believe it or not, most people are going to be drafting him as a WR3. I think there's enough caution that he's definitely not a top wide receiver. There's plenty of other guys you could draft as your second wide receiver before you get to Wallace. So be careful not to overdraft him. And if you are a Steelers fan, don't be the homer.
Nice.
Or a Dolphins fan, for that matter.
Seriously.
Does Mike Wallace being on that team, does that presence alone increase Tannehill's value at all?
No, I would say yes.
Just 'cause
I mean, here's the thing.
Guy.
He's a big-bodied receiver. He can stretch the field. He's a little bit different player than Brian Hartline or Devone Bess. Those guys are a little bit more smaller in stature, probably better slot receivers, inside guys. So, I mean, he definitely helps him. Just like anything else, being a young quarterback, you always just worry, is he going to be able to pull it all together? And then even this team, their offensive line, I know they've made some changes to it. I hope to God that, the changes that they've made, he'll continue, being well protected because he's going to need it.
Defensively, they've made some upgrades too.
They did.
With Donnell Ellerby coming over from the Ravens, the defending world champion Ravens, to play middle linebacker. And was Brent Grimes there last year as a cornerback? I don't remember.
I want to say he was, but
no, he was a Falcon last year. He only played one game as a Falcon last year. Looking at his stats, so he's a new addition at the cornerback position. So the Dolphins on defense might be able to make some noise as well.
They will, but they're probably going to make the noise as a bye week replacement or a matchup based play. They're not. I don't think they're quite yet at a defense one just yet. And here's primarily why. They still have got to play some pretty good teams out there that, the key stat that you look at when it comes to playing your defenses on a weekly basis is, how many fantasy points does the other team's offense give up to opposing defenses? And generally, the better teams don't turn the ball over. And those would be teams like the Falcons and the Patriots. And the Dolphins have quite a few teams like that. So, if other teams not turning the ball over or giving up sacks, that means your defense, regardless of the personnel, is just not gonna get you a lot of points. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, when you look at, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, guys. On the other hand, there's portions of their schedule that are favorable, and they're favorable in the following way. They're favorable because they're playing teams like the Jets, teams like the like the Bills.
Mm-hmm. So from that angle,
I mean, from that angle, that's why they end up being more of a defense too, and more of a bye week fill-in. Mm-hmm. Now, another thing that's been coming up lately is the backfield situation for the Dolphins. You got Lamar Miller, Daniel Thomas, and Mike Gillis-Lee. A lot of people are high on Lamar Miller. And the reason to be high on him is the fact that right now he's considered the lead back for the Dolphins. And, anytime you can get a guy who's going to get 20 to 25 touches a game, you have to be looking at him and saying, this is a special fantasy football player. But one of the things not to forget about is last season he did touch the ball, not a lot, but it was just enough that he didn't really do much. Mm-hmm. And Daniel Thomas was actually getting the ball a little bit more than he was. So I'm sort of leaning back on this saying, I think some of the hype might be more than what the reality might be. So, I like him as an RB2, more so as an RB3. And if you can get him in as an RB3, I think that'd be perfect. Because you'd have a great either flex player. If you don't have flex players on your rosters, you'd have a guy that could fill in during a bye week.
Mm-hmm. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. We're talking with Jim Sarantias, the Fantasy Greek, and their last and final team in the AFC East, the New York Jets. Oh, the Jets. It's not funny to me.
You need to cue the music if there's any music to cue on this.
There's got to be a
give me a sec. I was trying to find the Incredible Hulk theme. Okay, anyway.
The Lonely Man theme?
Yeah. This team, I think, on the field is just going to be god-awful, horrendous. Is there anybody from a fantasy standpoint that's worth keeping an eye on?
Chris Ivory. Chris Ivory is just an incredible running back that was buried on the depth chart of the Saints. He's sort of reminds me of a Marion Barber, just a violent runner, puts his head down and just goes, and if you're standing in the way, he's going to run through you. Now, he needs to change that. If he doesn't change that, he obviously won't make it an entire season, and from the sounds of it, they're going to run the ball a lot. He's going to be a guy that will probably be drafted as an RB3, mostly because he's on the Jets. And people are just going to see other running backs to take before him. So I think he would be a great guy. A guy that I think may be underdrafted, which people may be very surprised in. And some of this is going to depend on how the offense rolls out. I mean, say what you will about Mark Sanchez and what we don't know about Geno Smith, but the reality is you got to throw the ball. And even though you may not be fantasy relevant, a receiver or two might be. Santonio Holmes last year, before his injury, was on pace for 1,000 yards receiving, believe it or not, and 3 or 4 touchdowns. Now, while the touchdowns, they don't knock it out of the park for you in fantasy football, that yardage does, and the receptions would have been decent enough. So, if you can get him as a wide receiver for, that's great. And I get it. When you see the name, you might sort of say, I have a lot of bad memories of this guy since he's been on the Jets. He was way better when he was with the Steelers. But you might be able to get over it on this one. And again, look at what else you're picking from. If I had Torrey Smith and Santonio Holmes, I'm taking Torrey Smith. But if it's Santonio Holmes and, I don't know, let's say one of the wide receivers from the Rams, not named Tavon Austin, I might take Santonio Holmes.
He's always got upside. He's got that dangerous upside because sometimes if you're in the right position in the draft, you can fall in love with the possibility. And it's just dangerous from a fantasy owner standpoint. Absolutely.
Yeah, the Jets, it's going to be just one of these teams. I think everybody pretty much knows they're going to disappoint, even though who knows? When I was sitting here working on all the different divisional previews for our draft guide, which should be done by August 1st, you kind of know there's going to be a team out there that right now everybody's looking and saying, oh, they're not going to be good or this or that, and they're going to surprise everybody. They're going to be better than whatever anyone expected. They may or may not make the playoffs. I mean, I did not expect the Vikings to make the playoffs last year. I did not expect the Bengals to make the playoffs last year, and yet they did.
There's always one or two teams that come out of nowhere.
Exactly. So, is it the Jets? I don't think so. Could it be the Dolphins? Maybe.
I think the real point of concern, as much as Mark Sanchez is always going to be like the focal point of what's wrong, but this defense does not look very good on paper at all.
I think the defense will play better than people expect. But the problem is if that offense isn't on the field very long, eventually guys get tired. Over the course of a season, I think people get tired. I think they start giving up, and it may not be apparent, meaning consciously they may not be doing it, but unconsciously they may be. And that's part of the reason why to try and have such a balanced team. So, anyway, the AFC East, I got it panning out as the Patriots, Dolphins, Bills, and Jets. The Bills, my biggest concern with them, obviously they're still working out their offensive issues, but even on defense, the fact that Jarius Byrd wouldn't, they hadn't worked out a long-term deal with him. I don't know. I get the feeling Jarius Byrd may not, even though he may never say it, but he may not really wanted to be there. And if he doesn't want to be there and he's one of your best defenders, that's really tough,
Well, how much do you pay for safety? He should be in the top 5%. You know what I mean? Somewhere in that range. But if a player doesn't want to be like, if you're a Bills player, Bills fan, you got a new start, a new coach. They went and obviously got the quarterback that they wanted because they went and drafted him in the top 10. So obviously they feel that this guy has something down the road. They went and got Kevin Cobb, who somebody somewhere believed this guy could play, regardless of whether he's actually shown it or not. He's shown it in flashes. So the Bills might be a team that's ready to take that next step and be this year's Minnesota Vikings, Cincinnati Bengals, somebody that sneaks into the playoffs, maybe gets lucky at 8-8. Maybe they pull out a 9-7. Maybe that's dreaming hardcore for Bills fans. I don't know. But if you don't want to be there during this, I don't know. I kind of question whether or not the organization wants you around. I don't know.
Yeah. And I feel for Bills fans because they so much more than anybody want to get back to that all-important game called the Super Bowl, which they lost 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, God, how heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but if it wasn't for the fact that they're so insufferable, like around here,
Oh, my God.
listening to Bills fans is like slamming your head against the wall. I respect them, but as a team, but their fans, oh my God. And I've been to other towns and I've listened to fans for other teams. I don't know what it is about Bills fans. I think it's something in the water. I don't know if it's the Jenny beer they're drinking, but
The famous example I threw out is the year that the Patriots traded the safety to the Bills. Rodney Harrison? Not Rodney Harrison. No. Who was it? Lawyer Malloy? Was
Yes.
it Lawyer Malloy?
yes.
And the Patriots strolled into Buffalo week 1, and Buffalo destroyed them. Like, it was over in the first
30-3
quarter.
or something.
It was
30-3 or something
ridiculous. And I was living in New Jersey at the time, but with a bunch of other transplants from Western New York that were all Bills fans. And all I heard was, look at that defense. Buffalo's going to the Super Bowl. Yeah, they didn't make the playoffs that year. So,
Well, they were right,
That's-
though. One of the teams in that was going to the Super Bowl.
right. But
Here's the thing. I remember, and I think it was 2-3 seasons ago that happened. Is that about right?
no, it was longer
No,
than
it was
that.
a while
like
ago.
2004.
It was
Oh.
It was one of the Patriots. Was it their first Super Bowl? Or was it was like
No.
their second one.
It was 2003,
Okay.
2004 when that happened.
It seems to me 3-4 years ago, the Bills had a really nice hot start to their season and then kind of fell apart as it went on, mostly due to injuries. And they've kind of gone in and out as having an opportunistic secondary, opportunistic defense. And last year they didn't have it at all.
No.
And it was a shock because of the offseason moves that they made by signing Mark Anderson and Mario Williams. So, do they have the talent? I think they do. But, you definitely need players there who want to play, and you need players there that are motivated to play, and players that play well together. And you want them to be these guys that just strip the ball and go after things. And, I'm not sure that they have that just yet. I think they've got some solid guys. I think they could be there. And, if their offense can come around this year, they're close. You can kind of look at them and go, okay, if we had this guy and this guy and this guy, we're done.
Yeah.
And, they're just close.
And I think something that they've just been lacking over the years since Levy left is a solid coach. And last year they
That's
did
a
have
long
the
time
talent.
ago.
I know. Well, last year they had the talent, but their weaknesses showed exactly the shortcomings, like what shortcomings that Chan Gailey had as a coach. And you could look back, through the Wanstead years and the who was the other guy from the Bears? I met him too, Dick Duran.
Yeah.
These guys are very good.
Greg Williams.
They're very good support staff. They're very good coordinators, but they're not good head coaches. And Buffalo, hopefully they found the right guy this time that can actually fill that head coaching role properly. And I think that's what they've been missing all these years, is a legitimate leader.
Well, he led Syracuse to all those national titles. Oh, no, he didn't. Anyway. So,
Wow, nice.
And
Well,
I'm a-
here's
and I'm a
their
Syracuse
defense.
fan.
All right, they're on their depth chart. You got Mario Williams, Marcel Darius, Kyle Williams, Mark Anderson, and then Alan Branch from Seattle. He's actually not in. He's not at the top of it, but I got to think that he'll be right there. You know what? Linebackers, they've got Mark Anderson. Or I'm sorry, it was Kyle Williams was the end. Mark Anderson's outside linebacker. Nigel Bradham, Kiko Alonso, Manny Lawson. And then corners, Leotis McClevin, Denoris Searcy, Jarius Byrd, Stephon Gilmore. They got a decent defense. You know,
and like any team, though, I mean, it comes down to scheme and whether these players are the right fit for what they're trying to do offensively.
But even
they got the names.
There's still the issue going on with Bird and the whole contract situation.
Yeah, he can
so
never.
Who
be
knows
that.
what's going to happen with him? What's going on in his head? If he's even going to be playing up to his potential.
Aaron Williams is listed as his backup. So.
Yeah.
I mean, here's how I see it. It's going to play out: is he won't show up for camp. He will show up for week 1. So the issue is going to be whether they let him play at that point, or if they're going to tell him you got to work your way back.
And if he misses camp, what kind of condition is he going to be in?
If the Bills don't find a way to get him ready for week 1, they're really cutting off their nose to spite their face. But
well, that's an old saying I haven't heard in quite a while.
Welcome to the Buffalo Bills. His name is Jim Sarantias. He is known as the Fantasy Greek. Follow him on Twitter at the Fantasy Greek and the website thefantasygreek.com. Jim, thanks again for joining us.
Real quick, though, before you leave, I think I have an answer to your question.
Oh,
did you Google it?
Yes.
No,
so wait, let me repeat the question for people that are listening. Basically, the question is that the top 25 scorers in the NFL, excluding quarterbacks, 1 year ago before the season started, right before the season started, out of the top 25 active scorers, excluding quarterbacks, 22 were kickers, 3 were position players, 1 was a running back, 2 were wide receivers. Who are the 3 players?
See, I had the wide receivers linked. I think I had them nailed right from the beginning, which was Terrell Owens and Randy Moss.
There you go. Perfect.
But now the running back, I didn't have any clue until you mentioned it was a running back. And there's only one person I could think of because I know he scored more than 150 touchdowns in his career, and that was LaDainian Tomlinson.
And you are right, my friend.
Okay.
Wow.
He's the only running back I could think of.
I totally forgot he retired last year.
He retired in 2011. Yeah. So by 2012. But I could not think of any other running back that had any other.
Are you sure? I thought he officially retired right before the season kicked off last year.
I think he was holding out for a job.
I think 2011 was his last season, but then I think he did retire right at the beginning of 2012.
So.
I think it was 2012 he officially retired.
Yeah.
I'll almost give you a pass for that ridiculous Bud Selig argument made in the previous
Thank you.
segment.
I appreciate that, Keith.
Jim, thanks. We'll talk to you next week.
Sir.
Sounds great, guys. Talk to you later.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we will have Monty, the sportologist, to talk NBA. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
I can remember, I never really had too much to boast about. Pops was a fiend addict who always had his emotions out. Methamphetamines had his mind twisted up. He could give 2 fucks about his children growing up. But then before that, the man seemed to drown in his sorrows. The liquor bottles, dreams of taking back tomorrow. Consumed by the clouds, the darkness that prowled. Situations that seemed to always put him down. So in reaction, he reacted in cold fashion. Bruising kin's mind, body, and soul is the action. Living in fear for years, the wrath of this man. The uncalculated ways that he carried out his plan. Confusion, and the act of love was an illusion. You cross the crooked man and your breath is what you're losing. An insert to a chapter of my adolescence. So take a lesson as I step in the intersection.
I'm just trying, right away. Just telling my story, my life, my way.
I wanna say I love my mom, but growing up was rough and rugged while she was gone. Childhood days was black and pushed away. He gave me life, but innocence was plagued and decayed. You can say That sounds a little drastic, but Pop raised men, not little boys who sit and cower. That rage that I keep from my younger days intertwines with my nows and my yesterdays. Daily regiments of physical brutality. I'm 20 plus and it's hard to let my mind free. You can say I pushed away the good times, but it's the hard times that penetrate my mind. A motto from the man to his youth. Do as he say, but not as he do. To him, those explain the facts of life. A blueprint or a path of the wrongs and rights.
I'm just trying right away. Just telling my story, my life, my way. I'm just trying right away. Just telling my story, my life, my way.
I sit up at night and I stare in the mirror, contemplating about becoming what I fear. I look in my daughter's eyes and I can never do that. See, I can never do what he did or even think that. The cool breeze sways aside in her short hair. Her eyes glisten from the sunlight and spring air. When she grins, I can see my mom's. And when we hug, they're both in my arms. If she ever looked down, I know that she would smile, proud of her son and her grandchild. I look back and wish that she had saved me, but my crazy childhood is what made me. I don't hate my pops for the things that he did. He didn't know better, and for that I forgive. I'm older now, with my own child. It's hard times before that helps me grow now.
I'm just trying right away. Just telling my story, my life, my way. I'm just trying right away. Just telling my story, my life, my way. Inside of me, I'll never come back here again. I'll surrender. 'Cause I really know that you hate me. Since the day I was born, you never loved me. You try to pull me down. You hate me. 'Cause Father has chosen me, loved me. I never trusted you. My hands are tied, I don't know what to do. Why don't you leave us alone, 'cause we no longer help you. I saw on the news, see that what you have done. Still ain't no solution, they bring you down. What's up, man? Wanting to get a job and try to live your life as a normal person. Brother, I love you through all my life, but you didn't answer to the questions why and how. I never wanted to tell me all about a mother and the blood I saw your night. Hate me since the day I was born. You never loved me. You try to pull me down. You hate me. 'Cause Father has chosen me, loved me. I never trusted you. It's last time, I'll be back here again, won't surrender. 'Cause I know you can hate me. Since the day I was born, you never loved me. You try to pull me down, hate me. 'Cause Father has chosen me, loved me. I never trusted you. Hate me, hate me, hate me. My enemy
You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. A little Rocky 4 as we try to keep the adrenaline going into the wee hours of the morning. You may get a little bonus time from us tonight, folks, because we have a very special guest. Lamont brought us, known as the Sportologist.
Yeah,
We call him Monty the Sportologist.
Monte.
Follow him on Twitter at the Sportologist. Monty, how are you, sir?
Man, I'm doing good. Like I said, past the bedtime, man, but definitely want to see what's going on with sports at all times of the day. So definitely appreciate you guys having me on today.
Anytime, sir. Anytime.
So the big buzz today, and whether it amounts to a hill of beans, nobody really knows yet, but the word is that the Lakers are purposely not committing to any contracts after this season because they want to keep this cap space open to chase after LeBron and Melo. Personally, I it's a pipe dream. Maybe it's not impossible, but first of all, it's not even guaranteed that LeBron's going to opt out. Everyone's saying LeBron's going to opt out, but he hasn't said he's going to opt out. So if he does opt out, do you see him going to Los Angeles?
I do not. I think it's a 50-50 chance as far as him staying with Miami. As we talked about while we were doing our music break, man, is that he's either going to go stay with Miami or he's going to go back to Cleveland to try to fulfill the whole prodigal son type of role up there, because he promised Cleveland a championship, and as we've seen, he got them there, but didn't have a great supporting cast. And the way Cleveland is definitely building their team, they're definitely looking very formidable for him to come back now.
If he goes back to Cleveland and wins a championship, is all forgiven by the Cleveland fans?
Heck yeah. First of all,
that was a softball. I laid that one up there for you.
First of all, man, I mean, if he goes back and wins the championship, man, I'm parading around the streets butt naked. So definitely, shout out to Carolina. And I probably will need some bail money from you guys for indecent exposure.
You'll be real popular in prison, though, that's for sure.
Yes, I will definitely make news headlines for that. And we'll definitely be tweeting that out. As it goes down until they take my phone, and I'll get one phone call, and hopefully I can call into you guys and get that bail money.
Just for the record, I don't know personally, but I hear it's very bad to go to prison naked. I'm just saying.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true, and I'm not built for prison, so.
Outstanding.
That'll be quite awkward for me.
So, but the whole idea of the Lakers chasing both LeBron and Melo, I don't get it, because they're both listed as threes. I know LeBron is kind of a physical freak and can play the 2, 3, or 4, but all of those guys have a certain way they play the game, and out of Kobe, Melo, and LeBron's probably more of a passer than the other two put together. I don't see a way that would even work, even if they were able to land them all. You know more about basketball from a schematic standpoint than I do. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I definitely agree with you, man. I mean, I do not see a Kobe and Carmelo team working out at all because both of them are scorers. They're shooters, and they basically, put the offense around themselves. So to have them go to the Lakers, to have Melo go to the Lakers, man, would be just completely a train wreck, especially personality-wise as well. The only person I see actually being able to mesh, and that is LeBron, because he proved me wrong, man. I mean, I called him not being able to mesh with Dwayne Wade because I felt that at the time when LeBron was there, going to the Miami Heat, he was more of a slasher, wanting to drive to the basket, and they needed to put shooters around him. And Dwayne Wade is definitely not a shooter, no matter how much he's tried. But LeBron definitely showed us one thing about his game, and that he's able to adapt well. And from not only a standpoint of being able to pass, but, man, I mean, he definitely put up career highs in three-point percentage. And his jumper was definitely there when a lot of teams tried to stop him from going to the basket and challenged him to shoot that jumper. And he definitely knocked it down. We definitely seen it with the Spurs series. So if anybody was able to go there and mess with Kobe, it would definitely be LeBron. But like I said before, I don't feel him going to the Lakers, and this is the reason being. LeBron has been challenged plenty of times as far as the people that he's been compared to in the league, and they basically threw out Kobe there as a comparison to him and saying that Kobe needed to pass the torch to LeBron. There is no way at all that I see LeBron going to the Lakers and aiding Kobe in his quest to get more rings. I mean, that would basically be shooting himself in the foot and hurting his legacy when he's being compared to Kobe. Same thing with Melo. LeBron and Melo has always been head-to-head, has always been compared because not only have they came to the same draft, but they also went head-to-head when they were in high school. And Melo got the better end of him, I believe, when he came to high school when he played for Oak Hill and LeBron played for St. V. So I don't see LeBron trying to team up with Melo and helping him as far as his legacy is concerned either, because LeBron, at the end of the day, wants to be a competitor. And, he's not going to try to help somebody else to pad their stats, everything like that, and pad their legacy. I see Melo as going down as one of those great players in the NBA, but not being able to win a ring, kind of like in the mode of a Charles Barkley, Karl Malone type. And I don't see LeBron pairing up with him.
Mm-hmm. What are the chances? Because theoretically, Kobe may not be under contract, right? This is his last year, I believe. Let me look that up real quick. Kobe's.
Yes, this is his last.
This is his last year, and he said he won't take a pay cut. So, what are the chances they're maybe making a last-ditch effort for life after Kobe?
Well, I mean, it definitely is good for the Lakers to think that way. I mean, think about it. The Lakers really haven't had good drafts when it come down to it. I mean, never been in a position to have to draft. They've always built themselves off of, Kobe got there because of the fact that he wasn't necessarily drafted, but it was a trade that they made to get him there. And, after that, they've always struck gold with being able to bring franchise players there via free agency because of their name and how much money they can throw at them being a big market team. People are saying that the Lakers need to rebuild. I never feel, they've never been in that position to be able to draft and get, a player, in the top 10 because they've always been a playoff team. So, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what they try to do with Kobe. Kobe has also, vocalized and said that, hey, look, I feel like I have 2 to 3 more years to play. And let's not forget, Kobe's had a devastating injury, especially for a guy that his age, where he's young, but at the same time, he's been playing for an awful long time. I did one of those crazy stats before where I researched his minutes. And if you equate the amount of minutes that Kobe has played on the court, that is him basically for a year running back and forth on a court, full court, back and forth for a complete year, man, and not stopping. That is a lot of daggone minutes on a guy's knees, on a guy's legs. And, having that Achilles injury, I think he'll come back and, put up a good 17 to 18 points a game. But, I mean, are we looking at Kobe in the essence of, is he that Jordan that we're like, okay, guy, it's time for you to retire, not take over a franchise like he did because he definitely sucks. Mm-hmm. But Kobe, is it time to go ahead and put it down, man? I mean, come on, dude. Like, we don't want to see you go play for a team like the Wizards or something like that.
Exactly.
And that's not but I think he's starting to get into that mode where we're kind of getting tired of Kobe. Get out of the way. Let's go ahead and usher in a new era for the NBA.
As we sit right now, the Lakers have 2 players that will be under contract for 2014-2015. And those 2 players are Steve Nash, who will be paid $9.7 million. And
will be 85 years old.
And Robert Sacre, who will be paid $915,000.
Look, let me go ahead and call Steve Nash the insurance company of the NBA. I mean, this guy he's a crook. I mean, you paying a guy $9 million to basically sit on the sideline, and we all know how he sits there. He lays on his back. He has a big giant towel around his neck, and I mean, just go ahead and get the guy a Sealy Posturepedic, man, a sleep number, because the guy is not out there to play any ball, man. He's definitely not. He's a shell of himself. He promises that he's going to come out there and play again. But I really don't see this guy doing anything, man. And, I mean, it was a last-ditch effort to try to get something done as far as bringing that Laker team to some kind of irrelevance. But as we've seen before, what hurt them this year was definitely their age and their injuries. Because, I mean, how have you guys ever seen, you know, two old guys, you know, in roto-rooters try to race down the street?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a pretty sight. It's not.
It's
So,
Especially when
You
one of
know-
them has a bad haircut and tries to play defense. It just doesn't work.
yeah, I mean, and Nash has never been a defensive guy ever. I mean, so he's definitely a liability, and then you're praying for this guy to create, you know, some passes and everything like that, court vision. And, I mean, he's just not that guy. So that's why I call him the insurance company of the NBA, because he's just basically just milking it right now.
Kobe's going to make $30 million this year alone. $30 million, and he said that he doesn't expect to take a pay cut.
I think he's being very unrealistic at his age.
I think he may be facing a decision after this season.
Well, no. He came out and said within the past couple of days, I don't know if you guys got this or not, but he definitely came out and said, hey, look, you know, I'm a businessman, and at the end of the day, of course, you don't want to take a pay cut or anything like that. But with the light of bringing a Melo or LeBron to the team, he definitely said he would consider it. You know, he put a ...
But what's a pay cut to him? If he's making 30 now, is he going to think he's being the big man by going to 25? I mean, at his age, coming back, and again, we don't know what he's going to look like coming back from the Achilles tendon. He could be like Adrian Peterson and be better than ever, but I doubt it at his age.
Yeah, his age.
But is he going to be any more than, you know, Pau Gasol is the next highest paid player at $19 million. You know, there's some big money tied up there.
But as far as Kobe's pay cut, I mean, he's got to look at what happened with Pierce this year. I'm not even going to say Garnett, because Garnett only was with the Celtics for a few years. But Pierce was the face of the Celtics, and they pushed him aside like he was nothing because they needed to free up cap space. Now, Kobe, everyone says is untouchable, which everyone thought Pierce was untouchable. If Kobe says, oh, I'm not going to take a pay cut, or I'm not going to take, like you said, that big of a pay cut, they're not going to give him $20 million, you know, with all the mileage on him for a new contract. He's got to wonder if they'll push him to the side and try to send him off to another team.
Pierce was the face of the Celtics, but he's not the same caliber of player as Kobe Bryant.
What I'm saying is, for that franchise, he was. You know what I'm saying?
You know,
he was like the Derek Jeter.
What it really comes down to, man, is the leadership in that franchise, man. I mean, when we seen Jerry Buss pass, you know, like, it definitely ushered in an era, and we didn't know what Jim was going to do. But now it seems like what Jim is doing is he basically is saying that his balls are bigger. You know, and excuse me for being frank with it, but
No,
I
that's
mean,
a good way to call it.
He's basically saying that, hey man, my balls is big. I have some new ideas. I can do this and do that. And we've seen over these last couple of years that it's been nothing but a travesty, man. And that was the hardest thing that this Lakers organization could face is somebody like Jerry, who was very hungry, made things happen, had a winning system. You know, pass, and then Jim trying to basically recreate the wheel. I mean, come on, man. If you seen your father had all this daggone success by doing something a certain way, why would you need to come into the franchise, man, and change that?
Exactly.
I mean, and that's what it really comes down to. It really doesn't come down to Kobe. It doesn't come down to the players' contracts or anything like that. It comes down to who's going to open up their pocketbook and make sure that they pay this money. If it was Jerry, I think that he would definitely have seen the writing on the wall, seeing that, hey, Kobe, you know, you're not the same guy that we had before, and you're making way too much money. You're making the Kobe money where you were definitely putting the team on your back and getting us places, but you're not that guy anymore. And I think Jerry would have pulled the trigger, man. I think we would have seen some amnesty-type things from Kobe. I think we would have seen some trades because at the end of the day, just like, you know, how they're bringing up with Dwayne Wade, you know, trade the guy while he still has some type of value to his name.
Exactly.
Instead of trying to, you know, wait until he has nothing and then you're like, okay, well, I'll try to trade him or something like that. You need to go ahead and get Kobe out of there, man, while he still has some type of value. Try to build up some draft picks, like you guys said, and you know, and free up some cap space, man, to get some free agent names there that wants to be there for that historic franchise.
Exactly.
Because we've seen with Dwight Howard, man. Dwight Howard, I think, took the lesser money in Houston, and I think he turned down a $30 million, contract that he could have got more if he would have came back to the Lakers. And the reason being is because, first of all, he didn't like Kobe. And second of all, he didn't like the fact that, everybody's raving around about him winning rings and all this other stuff. I think Dwight felt like he had too much pressure on him, man. So whoever comes in next, you have to get a guy that has the caliber and the personality to say, look, you know what, I'll put this team on my back, I'll put this franchise on my back, and I'll lead them out of this darkness to get them back to their winning ways. And really, who's going to be that guy that's going to do that for him?
Carmelo's not that guy. He'll never be that guy. He doesn't have the personality for it.
Exactly, because he would have stayed with the Nuggets if that would have been the case.
Absolutely.
I think that the Dwight Howard decision was made up when the Lakers stood behind Mike D'Antoni.
Yes.
So you have Jim Buss had screwed that decision up from the get-go. The only hope in Lakerland is that Jeannie Buss eventually takes more of control of the team going forward. You want to know why the Lakers had to pay so much luxury tax? I'm just as I have this payroll screen up here. The players that are still counting against their salary cap for whatever reason. Ron Harper, $2.3 million.
Oh my God.
Shamond Williams, $2.1 million. Karl Malone, $1.8 million.
What? Still?
Yep. Mitch Richmond, $884,000. John Sally, $884,000. Joe Smith, $884,000. Jim Jackson, $884,000.
Jim Jackson.
Ira Newble, $884,000. Brian Shaw, $884,000. And Horace Grant, $884,000.
That's ridiculous.
I'm sure there's some financial mumbo jumbo of how they've extended their payoffs and deferred it and all that other junk. But the fact
we're
that
talking a decade for most of these players.
if that means that Brian Shaw made $884,000 from the Los Angeles Lakers this year while he's assistant head coach to the Indiana Pacers, no wonder he don't care about getting a head coach.
Yeah, seriously. That's insane.
Yeah, who's good? I mean, seriously.
Well, Monty, we're out of... Ooh, I'm sorry.
John Sally doing now? I mean, I've seen him on a couple of sports shows, but I think that's been fizzled out. I mean, he's basically kicking his feet up and just waiting for,
he's waiting for
a bus
Bad Boys
check,
3 to come around.
He was on that. He was on that best damn sports show ever, or whatever, on Fox Sports with
Tom Arnold,
Chris Rose, and Tom Arnold, and John Kruk.
Yeah,
it was a good show for a little bit there, but didn't have the legs.
Yeah, no.
But Monty, we are out of time. We're going to hit the road. Thank you very much for joining us.
No worries. Thank you guys for having me on. I definitely look forward to meeting you guys next week, man, so we can continue on and hopefully have a little bit more time.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for staying up this late.
You got to find a way to keep Jim from talking. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you next week.
Most definitely.
All right. Take care, man.
You too.
And with that, we are out of time.
Great show, sir.
I want to thank all of our guests for joining us. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. We will be here next week, same time.
Yeah.
Post-game show is brought to you by Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.